Hello everybody, this is an almost matched pair of Hawthorns that I've almost left it too late to repot, even though it's only the 17th of February today. They're both, well, some of the buds have actually popped, but I'm going to repot it because according to the label it was last repotted in 2017. So that's 3 years in this pot, and I think I want to give it a bit more space for the roots and get some fertilizer into it. Strangely, this particular tree here was the first to lose its leaves, probably of all my trees, and this one is still holding on to some of its leaves from last year. A few got clobbered by the sharp frost that we had last week, but still a few are green, so it's strange. They're both seedlings from the same little batch I had, and they have such different characteristics in terms of battling the weather, I guess. I put them together in this pot, I think it might have been 2014, 2015 perhaps, no, probably 2015. I've never shown them on camera before, not unless you count one of my Tour of the Benches videos. Kind of inspired by a couple of trees that I pass whenever I drive into town, and they sit in the middle of a field on the side of the fuel carriageway, and they're just two trees standing together making one perfect crown, and that's what I'm trying to achieve. So without further ado, let's get it out of this pot, do some root pruning, a little bit of shaping on the top, and then it'll be all set up for spring. I'm hoping they're both going to come out together, and then I can treat the whole thing as one tree. Pretty much has drainage screens and everything have stayed intact, so that's good. I'm trying to get this job done before the rain sets in. We're supposed to be getting heavy downpours and a lot of heavy rain over the next few days, starting this afternoon, this evening, so this isn't as root bound as I had expected it would be. You can tell this has been in the pot for a while because it's the cat litter is a much finer quality that I used to get from that well-known supermarket called that rhymes with UNESCO. Unfortunately, that brand of cat litter is no longer available, but it was much finer than the current stuff that I use, which was quite good for smaller pots. But there we go. This I'm going to be just not going to completely bare root these trees because they are quite advanced, but I do want to get rid of a few of the bigger roots, make some room in the pot for some fresh roots and some fresh soil. So as I've said many times, these old cutters that I use for root work, they will cut through almost anything, including my fingers if I let them get in the way, I think. But I know some people would almost weep at the thought of seeing me cut through this soil with them, but they're made for that job, and that's the only job that they do. So some big old roots in here that I want to get rid of. Some chunky stuff that's just taking up room. There's no feeder root in that big chunky piece, so that's a big chunk of root. I use these old cutters I've had for years, and they got too blunt really for top work, but they do work very well for getting into a chunky piece of root like that. That's better. Okay, so that's really just about it. I do want to clean off a bit from the top, expose some of the roots, but with a composition like this, it's not quite so important. Gradually, over the next few years, hopefully we'll expose a few more surface roots. But for now, yeah, I'm really quite pleased with that. Let's get it back into the pot, get some fresh soil in there. Happy days. I've given the pot a bit of a clean. It's back to its gorgeous blue. It does have a crack in it, which I had to glue just there, but I think it'll go on for a few more years yet. So I'm gonna put in a base layer of soil. I'm not going to wire these trees in. They have a really nice flat root base system, and I think they will sit quite happily. I will probably put a couple of rocks on the surface just until the roots begin to get some purchase, and obviously they're not going to be exposed to any windy conditions. I'll have them tucked away for the next little while whilst they recover from repotting in the shade house. So I'm going to put in a little bit of, well, I say a little bit, a generous amount of controlled release fertilizer, and then drop the trees back in. I want them central in the pot. Need a little bit more soil in the bottom. That's better. And then okay, so I've actually raised the surface level above the edge of the pot a little bit more to give them a bit more of a sort of look of being atop a hill or something. But now I've got to work in some compost around, get out all the air, and then I'm going to give it a top dressing with some potting grit, because the new compost around the edges is markedly different than the old compost in the centre, and frankly I don't like the look of the two together. So yeah, let's work that in and then we'll come back. Give them a good old drink. They're definitely, I think they look better now that they're raised slightly out of the pot a bit more. I know that can make it more difficult with watering, but because this mix is so free draining, I don't think it's going to be an issue. The water's coming out of the bottom very, very dusty, so make sure we give it a good rinse through. Excellent. This is my chosen front. I'm not going to put it on the turntable until it stops dripping a bit, but as I said, I do want to get this work done before the weather turns on me. One of the jobs I want to do is get rid of this sacrifice branch, which has sat at the base of this tree, fattening it up for a year or so. I no longer want that, so we'll get rid of that before we do anything else. what I want is just like those trees that I said to you on the side of the road, or in the field, to the side of the road. I just want those 2 straight trunks and a crown. One of the things I have noticed is that the trees have splayed further apart than they were originally in the pot, so I'm just going to wrap a piece of wire around the 2, just to, there's wire cutters, there they are, just to pull them back together. I wanted those 2 straight trunks. So, nothing fancy, just wrap loosely. I'll have to keep an eye, make sure it doesn't cut in, but it's only wrapped very loosely around the trunks, and that's pulled the crown back up together, so you've got 2 straight trees. And then I'm just going to cut away some of these bits that have, this for example, which is coming back across the trunk, I want to get rid of, and this will help balance out. Let's wait for the plane to go over. Okay, so it's finally wending its way. It's not a plane, it's a helicopter. So it certainly wasn't a train, it was a helicopter. I'm just going to prune back some of these pieces. That's going to help, as I was saying, balance out the loss of some of the roots. Those nasty old thorns. They really are not called the Hawthorn for no reason. They really are spiteful, but you can take them off and they don't grow back again, which is a useful thing to know. I didn't know that for a while, so I kind of didn't do anything with them and I kept getting scratched, but now I know I can cut off a thorn and not have to worry about it growing back. I do that quite regularly. Okay, so I'm cutting off back a few of these that are now crossing into one another. Obviously the trees would crowd out the light to an extent in the centre of the crown, so I'm just taking off bits that are going in the wrong direction essentially, and as I say, trying to balance a little bit of the vigour, and taking off the odd dead bit. As always, there is always the odd dead bit. I'm going to leave that piece alone. I might even wire it in a second. I don't like it coming straight forward towards the viewer like that, but it has some potential to come across and balance out a bit of the tree in that direction. So I'm just shortening branches, as I say, taking off a little bit of some of the new growth so that it balances what I've taken of the roots. Most of what I've taken off will grow back and then some. Yeah, I am going to just put a small piece of wire just anchor it with that branch. Nothing fancy, not tight, but just bringing it down and round a little bit so that it's not coming right out towards the viewer. This piece, yeah, I don't like that. I'm going to take it back to this bud here and take that off as well. And I'm going to shorten them both. to a bud, and that I'm going to wire up. Yeah, a little bit of wire just on there. Again, anchor it around the branch. This is so thin and fiddly, but it's not really even going to be wired. It's just going to, that piece of wire is just going to push it upwards. Can't quite get the camera to focus on it, but yeah, so I've not actually wired that branch. It's far too thin, but this piece of wire has just gone round it and it's just holding it back as a sort of hook. This piece, I will let that become the new apex. So yeah, it's more or less stopped dripping now, so yeah, this is the front. We'll give you a quick 360. Actually, I know I do this all the time, but I really dislike that knotted lump with that sort of strange right angle. I'm going to have to hope that I get some branches popping into this area, but I'm sure I will over time. It's never actually easy trying to copy something you see in nature, but I'm quite enjoying the challenge of, as I say, creating these two trees together, two trunks, one crown. Unfortunately, because of it's on the dual carriageway, it's not somewhere I can take a picture, so I always have to rely on what I remember of seeing it. But as I see it at least a couple of times a week, because it's on my route to the supermarket food shopping, yeah, I have a pretty good idea of what it looks like. Thank you so much for watching, really appreciate it. Please, please, please do take care of yourselves. Stay safe.